What's up, YouTube? This video is about the breaking news that longtime NBA player Steve Nash has announced his retirement at the age of 41 after 19 seasons in the NBA. Ye Steve Nash of the glorious 1996 NBA draft, arguably the greatest draft of all time, which is now down to questionably two people, if I'm not mistaken, that are still active. Kobe Bryant. Well, technically, Kobe's the only active NBA player. Ray Allen has now announced his retirement, so he is still from that draft. The longest tenured player is Kevin Garnett for the 1995 draft. He still plays, although I strongly believe this will be his last NBA season. So, Steve Nash, he stated that coming into the season that this would be his last, and it didn't work out for him very well. And many injuries. He had hoped that when he was traded to the Lakers in 2012 that, that he and Kobe could do some good things, but it never materialized. Of course, I don't have to ask the questions like I have for other players, like who maybe borderline. We all know that Steve Nash is going to be a Hall of Famer, and he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. My impressions of Steve Nash was not just his passing, but at certain points during the NBA, he was the best passer in the NBA. He and Jason Kidd were, to me, when they played, the two best passers, bar none, in the NBA. With Nash eventually becoming a little bit even better of a passer. But unlike Jason Kidd, Steve Nash was a tremendous shooter. In fact, you can make the argument that Steve Nash statistically may have been the greatest shooter of all time. I mean, for his career, a 6'3" guard shot 49% from the field. He was 6'3". I think Nash may have been somewhere around 175 to 185 pounds. I'm not exactly sure. Not the most athletic player, but he took very intelligent shots. He did not take a lot of three-pointers, but when he did take them, he shot them in a very high clip. In fact, he made 42.8% of his three-pointers in his career, which I believe is 8th all-time. He is the NBA's greatest free throw shooter in terms of accuracy. He supplanted Mark Price in that regard a couple of years ago, a 90.4% career free throw shooter. And his accolades, as far as his career, are just staggering. 2 times he won the NBA's Most Valuable Player Award, 2004-05 season, the 2005-06 season. I thought that Nash possibly could have won one of those, but I thought that one of them may not have been as deserving. But hey, can't take away from him. I mean, there's been other arguable MVPs. I didn't think Karl Malone should have won MVP in 1997, but he did. He was an 8-time NBA All-Star as recently as 2012, when he was 38 years old. So he aged like fine wine when it came to NBA. He had his best years probably after the age of 25. 3 times he was on the All-NBA first team. Twice he was on the All-NBA second team. Twice on the All-NBA third team. 2 times he was the NBA Skills Challenge champion. The last time winning it in 2010 when he was 36 years old. 5 times led the NBA in assists. The last time being the 2010-2011 season when he was 37 years old. 4 times he was in the 50, 40, 90 club. And I believe that's the most times of any player. In 2007, he won the J. Walter Kennedy Citizenship Award. And I guess if there's any knock on Steve Nash, he wasn't the greatest defensive player. He wasn't. But he more than made up for it in other areas that he helped his teams. First drafted by the Phoenix Suns back in 1996, but he was kind of, he didn't get much playing time because of Kevin Johnson and some of the other great point guards was on those rosters back in Phoenix, back in the mid to late 90s. So, and he was traded, I think, to the Dallas Mavericks, where he flourished with a young Dirk Nowitzki, to the point where those teams, once before, Dallas Mavericks were cellar dwellers in the 90s. All of a sudden, they became playoff perennial contenders in the early 2000s. And he was traded to Phoenix, and that's where Steve Nash truly flourished, had the best years of his career, and they gave the Lakers some battles, man. Upset the Lakers back in 2007 playoffs. Came back from a 3-1 deficit to win the series in 7 games. Unfortunately, never won a championship. But Steve Nash gave the franchise all he could. Was traded to the Lakers later in his career in 2012, but it just enough materialized. There was not much left to take. Injuries began to take their toll. And today, at the age of 41, Steve Nash announced his retirement. He's third all time as far as assists. Only the great John Stockton and Jason Kidd have more career assists. Steve Nash, truly one of the greatest shooters of all time. The case be made statistically that he was the greatest, one of the greatest passers of all time. Personally, I believe he's one of the top 10 point guards of all time. You could even make a strong argument he's one of the top 5 point guards of all time. Steve Nash, in 2021, you will be inducted into the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. Thank you for the career that you've given us to see. It was a pleasure watching you for the better part of the last decade in your prime. I wish you success in your second life, what you choose to do after basketball. Thank you.